What's up everybody, it's Robin and welcome to the Robin's Nest. So I know many of you probably have a gamer in your household, or perhaps you're a gamer yourself. If so, chances are you're going to recognize today's cake because we're going to be making a Call of Duty Black Ops Zombies cake. So I really hope all my gamer fans really like this cake and you'll stick around and enjoy the video. Let's get into it. So today we're going to be making a two-tiered vanilla cake consisting of two 8-inch layers for our bottom tier and two 6-inch layers for our top tier. So the first thing we're going to do is take our cake leveler, which I've already preset, and we're just going to level these out to prepare them for stacking and filling because we do not want to end up with a crooked cake.
Also, I should mention that cake leveler is preset to just shy of 1.5 inches, which is my usual go-to size for nice thick cake layers.
Alright, now that our layers have been leveled out, it's time to prep our tiers for decorating. So the first thing we need to do is stack and fill each of our tiers, and then we're going to crumb coat and chill them. And what that's going to do is create a nice base for our final layer of icing to stick to. So for the inside and in our layers, we're going to be using some white American buttercream because I don't want to add too much dye to the inside of the cake because we're going to be using some darker colors on the outside and we don't want to dye anybody's mouth. Nobody likes that. So what we're going to do is take a little bit of our icing and we're going to attach our first layer of cake to our cake board. We're going to give that a little press down and that's going to act as a glue for our cake to stick to. And now we're going to fill our layer and then switch over and repeat the same process on our 6-inch before we start our crumb coats. Okay, so before I fill my 6-inch, I just want to show you guys something really quick. So as you can see, I have two cake boards here, one being a 10-inch and the second one being a 6-inch. And this is the same size as our top tier. And this is going to stay underneath our cake because this is going to give a base for our supports to help hold up the weight of the top tier. So now that we have those in place, and I have these two stuck together with just a tiny little bit of icing to make it a little bit sticky, and then we're going to repeat the same process that we did with the first one, and then we're going to switch everything around and do our crumb coats.
And just another quick reminder to add that thin layer of buttercream to your cake board so your cake layer has basically a glue for it to stick to. Otherwise, your cake could potentially slide off the board and that would be a cake catastrophe. So to fill your layers, you can go ahead and just scoop the buttercream on and smooth it out if you like, or you can use a piping bag like I am, and that's going to speed up the process and make things much neater. And it's also going to give you a nice thick even layer of icing in between each layer of cake, making for a beautiful slice when you cut that cake open later on. Alright, and now it is time for that crumb coat. Now once again, I'm going to be using a piping bag to apply my icing, and this is just full of some more of that white American buttercream. And we're just going to add a nice thick layer all over our cake and get that smoothed out. And you guys can use a spatula to apply your icing, like I said before, but this method is just so much quicker and cleaner, and as you guys can see, a lot less crumbs pull through. Now once we get this all smoothed out and get our second tier crumb coated as well, you're going to get those cake layers off in the fridge to chill for a little bit because you want that icing layer to firm up before you add your second coat of icing later on. And just about 10 or 15 minutes in the fridge should do.
So while we're waiting for our crumb coat to firm up, now is the perfect time to start working on our topper because it's going to need a little bit of time to dry. So I've already added some Tylo powder to this, so that's going to help it dry significantly faster, and I've already colored it to save a little bit of time, and I chose a nice light green with just a hint of blue to give it that really undead flesh look. So we're going to start shaping the hand, and I'm going to make it shaped so it looks like it's kind of coming out of a grave. And once I've finished with all the lines and the fingernails and the shape and structure of it, I'm going to finish it off with a little bit of colored dust in brown and green and give it that real undead, brought back to life look.
Alright, so the first thing we're going to want to do is knead our fondant a little bit to warm it up and make it a little bit more pliable and easier to work with. And then we're going to take our X-Acto knife and start cutting out the fingers to create the rough shape of the hand. Now that X-Acto knife, if you guys are curious about where to get one, I have a link to that and a bunch of other cool caking stuff in the description box below. And those are affiliate links, so I only get paid if you buy, not if you click, but every little bit helps a lot. So thank you so much, guys. Alright, so now we are creating some more lifelike features to the hand. Here I'm adding some creases on the palm, and then we're working on curling the hand and creating the shape that we want it to take while it's standing up. Now I'm taking my veining Dresden tool and we're working on the fingernails and all of the finer details, like the creases in between the fingers and behind the knuckles and on the back of the hand. And you really want to focus on those things and pay close attention to really bring it to life and make it look really realistic. And now it is time for some support. So as you guys can see, I'm inserting some little white wires, and those are just some heavier gauged floral wire used for making sugar and gum paste flowers. And I'm also inserting a heavier wooden dowel to give it a more solid structure up through the center and help our cake topper stand up while we're working on it. And now that our cake topper is standing, I'm going to work on some more of those finer details, like digging out the fingernails and making them look a little bit longer, and also shaping the hand a little bit better and making it look a little bit more how I want it to. Now we're going to finish this topper off with some of those edible colored dusts I mentioned earlier. Now these are Wilton brand colored dusts. They're very easy to use. I absolutely love them. I use these quite often. And I'm using a darker colored green to get into all the nooks and crannies and wrinkles and cracks of the hand and bringing out all of the texture and dimension in the hand. And now I'm switching over to a darker brown to really bring out that dead, rotted, decayed look.
Alright, our topper is finished and I think it turned out awesome. I'm so excited about it. I can't wait to see it on the cake. So I've set it off to dry for a little bit so it's ready for when we need it later. And now we are going to do our final coat of icing on our cakes. So for my bottom tier, I'm going to be using a nice forest green. And then for my top tier, I'm going to be using a lighter, more emerald green. And I'm just going to use a small offset spatula to apply it to my cake. And then I'm going to use a bench scraper to smooth it all out. Alright, now with both final coats done, we're going to get them both back in the fridge to chill really, really well because we want these nice and firm so when we handle them later on, when we're stacking them, we don't leave fingerprints behind. So I'm going to stick this in the fridge and we're just going to leave it in there and forget about it until we finish our decorations and it's time to stack our cake. So with our cakes back in the fridge chilling, we can get back to those decorations. And the next one we're going to work on is plaque for the front of the cake that says Call of Duty Black Ops Zombies. Game that we're making the cake for. So what we're going to do is roll out a big piece of black fondant and we're going to use that as the backer for our plaque. And then I'm going to roll out my piece of white and we're going to get our pattern marked off and let that dry for just a few minutes to help combat the stickiness when I'm cutting it with my X-Acto knife. And then we're going to take each individual letter and place them onto the black fondant where it's supposed to go, so that way we have a nice plaque to stick on the front of our cake.
So I am starting with a freshly kneaded piece of black fondant to make it a little bit easier to roll out, and I'm using a small fondant silicone roller to roll it out to about 1/8 of an inch thick, maybe even a little bit thinner than that. Now I am placing my stencil onto my fondant, and I've created that stencil just by using a piece of paper and my X-Acto knife to cut out each individual line on the stencil. Now what that does is create a perforation on the back of the paper, so when I press the stencil down onto the freshly rolled fondant, it actually leaves a really nice imprint behind. Now it is a little bit hard to see, so you're going to want to use a very well lit area to see it, but I use this method so often and it works for me so well. And I am super confident that with a little bit of practice, you guys are going to be mastering this technique in no time at all. And guys, if you have any foolproof tips or tricks of your own that you would like to share with me down below on how to achieve this technique, I would love to hear about them. I am always eager to try and learn new things to help create all these awesome cakes for you guys. After all, you guys are some of my biggest inspiration. So thank you.
Alright, so we finished our plaque and I think it turned out fantastic. Now it was fairly complex with all the tiny letters we had to cut out and all the little bits we had to cut around it, but once we put it all together I think it looks really sharp and I can't wait to see what it looks like on the cake. So the next thing we're going to work on, and I don't think it would be a Call of Duty cake without some of these, and that is some weapons. So we're going to make a grenade and a knife, and I'm also going to add some bullets. And to finish it off, we're going to make a little set of dog tags with the birthday boy's name and his age on them. So once I wrap them up, I'll be back and we can stack our cake.
All right, so we are going to start with our bullets first. Now these are going to have a gold finish, so I thought it would be best to start with a yellow based fondant, and we're just rolling out our fondant into a long skinny snake shape, and we're cutting it into equal segments. And we're taking each of those segments and we're shaping the tip, bringing it to a point, making it look more like a bullet. And now we're just going to repeat that process with the rest of our bullets until we reach a count of 12. Now I'm going to take my small offset spatula and we're just going to add those little fine details, the lines that show the different segments of the bullet. And then we're going to finish it off with some gold dust. And I'm just doing a dry dust. As you guys can see, I've just sprinkled a little bit on. And now I'm going to spread it out and roll them around using a nice feathery paintbrush. And this has never been used for paint. This has only ever been used for gold dust. So make sure you have a specific dedicated paintbrush for the job. So I am not going to show you guys how I made every single one of these decorations. The dog tags and the knife were really simple. I was able to just freehand those and kind of piece them together. But I am going to show you how I made this grenade. So as you guys can see, I just cut out a very simple oval shape from a piece of thick green fondant, and I've smoothed out the edges using my finger. Now I'm taking a veining Dresden tool and I'm creating some vertical and diagonal lines, giving the grenade its signature look. Now we are adding a top for our grenade using a little piece of gray fondant and finishing it off with a pull pin and then dusting the silver parts with just a little bit of silver edible dust. And once I pull that away, you guys will also notice I've added a little tiny bit of a gold sheen to the green as well. And voila, here are the finished products.
Alright, all our decorations are ready. We have our topper, which is nice and firm, so it's ready to go on top of the cake. We have all of our weapons, our bullets, our dog tags, and we have our plaque for the very front. Now all we have left to do is stack our cake. So I'm going to be using a couple of wooden dowels to use as supports, and we're going to use 4 in the bottom tier, and then we're going to take our top cake and set that into place with just a little tiny bit of buttercream in between, and that's going to hold everything all together. Then I'm going to throw all these decorations on, and I'll show you guys what it looks like.
So before I wrap this cake up, there's one last thing I would like to talk about. And this is, in my opinion, one of the most important parts of cake making, and that is our structures when making tiered cakes. So I see a lot of you guys like to use boba straws, and I used to use straws in the past myself too. They're easy to use, they're relatively inexpensive, and I do see the appeal, but I think we needed to do better. So I found a package of bamboo shish kebab skewers. Now these things are super strong, they're easy to cut, they're relatively inexpensive, and they are great for the environment because you can compost these. So in my opinion, these are a win-win. You can't go wrong. And if there's any tip that I would like to pass on to you guys, it is switch to these. You will not regret it, I promise you. And honestly, I find these work better because you're able to drive them straight down through your cake, even if it's a frozen cake, down through any cake cards that might be in between your tiers and straight into that cake drum on the very bottom, giving your cake tons of support and really holding it and locking it into place. So it's not going to go anywhere, especially during transportation. That's very important. And I am sure you guys can relate. I bet you guys have lots of horror transportation stories of your own, and honestly, I would love to hear about them. Personally, I have not had any mishaps myself, but I am a little bit superstitious, so fingers crossed that doesn't happen. But I would love to hear all about your misfortunate events. That would definitely make for some very interesting Halloween horror stories. So feel free to share them down below.
Well guys, here it is, my Call of Duty Black Ops Zombies cake, complete with a zombie hand reaching from the grave, all of the weapons you need to destroy the zombie, and to personalize, I added a little special feature with the birthday boy's name and his age on a set of dog tags. Isn't that such a cute little feature? I really like it, and I think it turned out epic. What do you guys think? Well, I really hope you enjoy it, and I really hope you enjoyed the video too. If you did, you guys know what to do. Leave me a big thumbs up and leave me lots of love in the comment section too. And if you haven't done so already and you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and ring the bell so you receive a notification every time I post a new video. And if you guys try out any of my cakes, I would absolutely love to see them. You can tag me on my Insta at the Robin's Nest 83. Thanks, guys.